My name is Margaret Sullivan, and I've been a hospice nurse in rural Vermont for 33 years. I care for people in their final days, helping them transition from life to death with dignity, comfort, and peace. I've sat beside over 1,200 deathbeds, held hands as breathing stopped, closed eyes that would never open again. I understand death intimately. I know its rhythms, its signs, its inevitable progression. I know when someone has hours left, when they have days. I know what a good death looks like, peaceful, pain-free, surrounded by love. But in the autumn of 2023, 3 of my patients stopped dying. They should have been dead within days. Medical assessments confirmed it: organs failing, bodies shutting down, the unmistakable cascade toward the end. But weeks passed, then months. They remained alive, conscious, suffering in bodies that should have released them. And the only thing they all had in common was me. I live in a small farmhouse outside Woodstock, Vermont, surrounded by rolling hills and maple forests. I've lived here since 1990, when I moved from Boston to escape the chaos of hospital nursing and find something quieter, more meaningful. Hospice care chose me as much as I chose it. I discovered I was good at sitting with death, at making the unbearable bearable. Vermont has an aging population spread across rural communities. Home hospice care is essential here. Patients want to die in their own beds, in their own homes, surrounded by familiar things. My job is to visit them daily, manage their pain, support their families, and guide them through the final journey. I work independently, visiting 6 to 8 patients at various stages of terminal illness. Some are days from death, some weeks, some months. I coordinate with doctors, manage medications, provide nursing care, and offer emotional support. It's intimate work, sacred work. The first patient who wouldn't die was Thomas Whitmore. Thomas was 78 years old, a retired schoolteacher with end-stage pancreatic cancer. When I began caring for him on September 1, 2023, his oncologist had given him less than a week to live. His tumor had metastasized throughout his abdomen. His liver was failing. His kidneys were shutting down. He was jaundiced, barely eating, sleeping most of the day. I visited him daily at his small cabin near Killington. We'd established a comfortable routine. I'd check his vitals, adjust his pain medication, help him with basic care, and sit with him for an hour or two. He liked to talk about his years teaching high school English, about the students he remembered, about his late wife Mary who died 10 years earlier. "I'm ready to go," he told me on September 5th. "I'm not afraid. I'm tired, Margaret. So tired. I just want to sleep and not wake up." "I know, Thomas. Your body is shutting down. It won't be long now." His vital signs confirmed it. Blood pressure dropping, heart rate irregular, breathing shallow and labored. His skin had that waxy quality that precedes death. He was actively dying. But he didn't die. September 6th came and went. Then September 7th. By September 10th, I was confused. Thomas was still alive, still conscious, still suffering. His vital signs remained terrible. He should have died days ago, but he persisted. "Why am I still here?" he asked me on September 12th, a week past when his doctor had predicted death. "I'm ready. I've said my goodbyes. Why won't my body let me go?" "I don't know, Thomas. Sometimes the body holds on longer than we expect. But this wasn't normal variation. This was impossible." Thomas's lab work showed organ failure incompatible with consciousness. His kidneys had essentially stopped functioning. His liver was barely working. He should be in a coma, not sitting up in bed having conversations with me. On September 15th, 2 weeks past his predicted death, I called his oncologist, Dr. Sarah Chun. "Dr. Chun, I need to discuss Thomas Whitmore. He's still alive." "That's unexpected. How is he doing?" "Poorly. All his symptoms indicate end-stage disease. But he's not dying. He's been in active dying phase for 2 weeks now. That's very unusual. I'll order new labs, see if something has changed." The labs came back showing the same thing: advanced organ failure, cancer progression, no improvement. By every medical measure, Thomas Whitmore should have been dead. But every day when I arrived at his cabin, there he was. Alive, suffering, waiting for death that wouldn't come. The second patient who wouldn't die was Eleanor Hayes. Eleanor was 84 years old with advanced congestive heart failure. Her heart was functioning at less than 15% capacity. She was on maximum medical therapy, but her body was drowning in fluid her heart couldn't pump out. She'd been in and out of the hospital 6 times in the past year. I began caring for Eleanor on September 20th, when she decided to stop aggressive treatment and transition to comfort care at home. Her cardiologist gave her days to live, a week at most. Eleanor lived in a Victorian house in Woodstock with her daughter Patricia. She was bedridden, on high-flow oxygen, her breathing labored and wet-sounding. Her legs were so swollen with fluid they wept through her skin. She was drowning slowly, inevitably. "I'm ready, Margaret," she told me on my first visit. "I've lived a good life. I'm 84 years old. I've had my time. I just want to go peacefully." I held her hand. "We'll make sure you're comfortable. No pain, no suffering, just peace." I visited Eleanor every day, managing her symptoms, keeping her comfortable. By September 25th, she should have been gone. Her oxygen levels were incompatible with life, her heart barely pumping, her body systems shutting down. But she didn't die. Days turned into weeks. October arrived. Eleanor remained alive, conscious, aware. Her symptoms didn't improve. She was still drowning, still suffering, but she wouldn't die. "Why is this happening?" Patricia asked me on October 8th. 3 weeks passed when doctors had predicted Eleanor's death. "Mom is suffering. She's ready to go. Why won't God take her?" I had no answer. The third patient who wouldn't die was David Foster. David was 62 years old with ALS, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, Lou Gehrig's disease. The disease had progressed rapidly over 2 years. By October 1st, when I began caring for him, he was completely paralyzed except for limited eye movement. He could no longer speak, swallow, or breathe without a ventilator. David had made the decision to disconnect his ventilator to allow natural death. His neurologist had confirmed that without ventilator support, death would occur within minutes to hours. His respiratory muscles were completely non-functional. I was there on October 5th when David's family gathered for the ventilator withdrawal. His wife, Jennifer, his 2 adult children, his sister. We'd prepared them for what would happen. David would be disconnected from the breathing machine, given sedation for comfort, and death would come quickly and peacefully. At 2 p.m., the respiratory therapist disconnected the ventilator. David was on his own. No mechanical breathing support. His oxygen levels should have dropped immediately. Brain death should have followed within minutes. But David kept breathing. Shallow, inadequate breaths. His diaphragm shouldn't have been able to move at all, but air was moving in and out of his lungs. The respiratory therapist checked the oxygen monitor. "This doesn't make sense. He's maintaining 88% oxygen saturation. He shouldn't be able to breathe at all without the vent." We waited. Minutes turned into an hour, then 2 hours. David continued breathing, barely but consistently. His oxygen levels stayed stable. "I don't understand," Jennifer said, crying. "He wanted this to be over. He's been suffering for so long. Why isn't he dying?" By October 6th, David had been off the ventilator for 24 hours. Still breathing, still alive. His neurologist came to examine him, baffled. "This is medically impossible," Dr. Martinez said. "David's diaphragm muscle is completely atrophied. He has no respiratory function. He should not be able to breathe without mechanical support." But he was breathing, and he was suffering. His body was failing, his organs were slowly shutting down from inadequate oxygen, but he wouldn't die. By mid-October, I had 3 patients who should have been dead weeks ago. 3 terminal patients, different diseases, different prognoses, all impossible survivors. And the only common factor was me. I was their hospice nurse. I visited each of them daily. I managed their care, provided comfort, sat with them through their suffering. On October 15th, I sat in my farmhouse kitchen, drinking tea, reviewing my patient notes. Thomas Whitmore, 6 weeks past predicted death. Eleanor Hayes, 4 weeks past predicted death. David Foster, 10 days without ventilator support, should have died in minutes. What was happening? I called a colleague, Susan Crawford, another hospice nurse who worked in Rutland County. "Susan, have you ever had a terminal patient who just wouldn't die? Someone who should have been gone weeks ago but keeps hanging on?" "Sure, occasionally. Sometimes people hold on for birthdays, anniversaries, waiting for family to arrive. But they usually die within days once they're ready." What if it's been weeks? Multiple patients? Weeks? That's unusual. What are their diagnoses? I explained about Thomas, Eleanor, and David. 3 different terminal conditions, all medically certain to result in death, all still alive weeks past predicted timelines. Susan was quiet for a moment. Margaret, that's really strange. Have you noticed anything unusual? Any commonalities besides you being their nurse? No. Different ages, different diseases, different family situations. The only thing they share is me. Maybe you're just really good at your job, keeping them comfortable, managing symptoms well. But comfort care doesn't prevent death. It makes death easier, not impossible. On October 18th, I tried an experiment. I told Thomas I'd be away for 2 days, a family emergency in Boston, another nurse would cover his care. Don't worry about me, Thomas said. I'll still be here when you get back. Apparently, I'm not going anywhere. I arranged for Susan to cover my patients on October 19th and 20th. I stayed home, watching from a distance, waiting. On October 19th at 4:32 p.m., Susan called me. Margaret, Thomas Whitmore just died. He was stable when I visited this morning. Then around 3 p.m. his breathing changed. I went back to be with him. He died peacefully at 4:15 p.m. I felt cold. Did anything change medically? No. He just let go. Like he'd been waiting for something, and once you weren't there, he could finally die. I drove to Thomas's cabin that evening. His body had already been taken by the funeral home, but his daughter was there, packing his belongings. He went so peacefully, she told me. The other nurse was wonderful. He just fell asleep and didn't wake up. It's what he wanted. I stood in Thomas's empty bedroom, staring at the bed where he should have died 6 weeks ago, and I understood. My presence was keeping them alive. Somehow, impossibly, when I was with my dying patients, they couldn't die. My care, my attention, my presence created some kind of barrier between them and death. Thomas had been ready to die for weeks, but he couldn't die while I was there. Only when I left, when another nurse took over, could he finally let go. On October 21st, I tested the theory again. I told Eleanor Hayes I'd be reducing my visits, transitioning her care to another nurse. Eleanor seemed disappointed but understanding. You've been wonderful, Margaret. But I understand. You have other patients. I visited her on October 21st for the last time. Susan took over her care starting October 22nd. Eleanor died on October 23rd at 11:17 a.m., peacefully in her sleep, with her daughter holding her hand, just as she'd wanted. Susan called me afterward. It was textbook peaceful death, Margaret. She just stopped breathing. No struggle, no distress, like she'd been waiting for permission. 2 patients, both alive impossibly long while under my care, both dead within days of me leaving. The pattern was undeniable, which left David Foster, still alive, still breathing without ventilator support, still suffering. On October 25th, I sat with Jennifer, David's wife, in their living room. Jennifer, I need to tell you something difficult. I think David hasn't been able to die because of me. She looked at me, confused. What do you mean? I've had 2 other patients recently who should have died weeks ago but didn't. They only died after I stopped being their nurse. I think somehow, my presence is preventing David from dying. That's impossible. I know. But Thomas Whitmore lived 6 weeks past when he should have died. He died within a day of me leaving his care. Eleanor Hayes lived 4 weeks past prediction. She died 2 days after I left. David has been off the ventilator for 3 weeks. He should have died in minutes. Jennifer stared at me. Are you saying you're keeping him alive? Against his will? I don't know how. I don't know why. But yes, I think that's what's happening. Then leave. Stop visiting him. Let him die. Please. If I leave, he'll die alone. You'll be here, but I won't. And he might be frightened, in pain. He's already suffering. He's been trapped in this body for 3 weeks past when he wanted to die. Let him go, Margaret. Please. I visited David on October 26th for the last time. I couldn't speak to him. He could no longer communicate, but I held his hand. I'm so sorry, I whispered. I didn't mean to keep you here. I didn't know. I arranged for Susan to take over David's hospice care. I left at 4 p.m. on October 26. David Forster died at 6:23 p.m. on October 26, 2 hours and 23 minutes after I left his house. Peaceful respiratory arrest, exactly as predicted when his ventilator was withdrawn 3 weeks earlier. Jennifer called me that evening. He's gone. He died peacefully. Susan was wonderful. But Margaret, why did this happen? Why did you keep him alive? I don't know. I swear I don't know. I took a leave of absence from work in early November. I couldn't continue hospice care if my presence was preventing my patients from dying. I couldn't force suffering people to stay alive against their will just because I showed up to care for them. I spent weeks trying to understand what had happened. I read medical literature, psychology journals, even spiritual texts about death and dying. I found nothing that explained why a nurse's presence would prevent death. I consulted with a psychiatrist, Dr. Alan Morrison, in December. I know this sounds insane, I told him. But 3 terminal patients who should have died in days lived for weeks while I cared for them. They all died within hours or days of me leaving their care. You think you were preventing their deaths? I don't think it. I know it. The pattern is clear. I just don't know how or why. Dr. Morrison was thoughtful. There's a concept in psychology called life force or vital energy. Some theorists believe certain people have a strong life force that can influence others. Healers, caregivers, people who work with the dying. Maybe your presence provided such strong life support, emotionally, spiritually, that your patients couldn't let go. But I was trying to help them die peacefully. That's hospice care. I wasn't trying to keep them alive. Consciously, no. But perhaps unconsciously, you were providing such strong support, such powerful presence, that it created a barrier. Your patients couldn't leave while you were holding on to them. I wasn't holding on. They wanted to die. I wanted them to have peaceful deaths. On a conscious level, yes. But Margaret, you've been doing this work for 33 years. You've sat with over 1,200 deaths. Maybe you've developed such a strong ability to sustain life, to maintain presence, that it literally keeps people alive beyond their natural time. I left his office with no answers, only questions. In January 2024, I received a call from Vermont Hospice Association. They wanted to discuss my leave of absence and future with the organization. I met with the director, Linda Patterson, at their Burlington office. Margaret, you're one of our most experienced nurses. Your patients love you, their families love you. But we've had some concerns about recent cases. The patients who wouldn't die. She nodded. 3 patients who outlived their prognosis significantly, all under your care. Then all died shortly after transitioning to other nurses. It's unusual. It's impossible. But it happened. We need to understand why. Were there medication errors? Documentation issues? Did you do something differently? I did my job. I provided excellent hospice care. And somehow, that prevented them from dying. Linda was quiet for a long moment. What do you think happened? I think I unconsciously kept them alive. I think my presence, my care, created some kind of barrier between them and death. And I think that means I can't do hospice work anymore. Margaret, you're 61 years old. You've given your entire career to this work. Don't throw it away over 3 unusual cases. They suffered because of me. Thomas, Eleanor, David, they wanted to die, they were ready to die, but they couldn't while I was there. I can't do that to anyone else. I officially retired from hospice nursing on February 1st, 2024. 33 years of sacred work ended because I developed an ability I never wanted, the ability to prevent death. For months, I struggled with what I'd learned about myself. Was it a gift? A curse? A psychological phenomenon? Something spiritual? I started volunteering at the Woodstock Library, helping elderly patrons with technology. I worked in my garden. I avoided anything related to end-of-life care. But in June 2024, I received a letter from Jennifer Forster, David's widow. Dear Margaret, I've been thinking about what happened with David. I was angry at first, angry that he suffered longer than necessary because you kept him alive somehow. But I've had time to reflect, and I want you to know something. Those 3 weeks after the ventilator was removed, even though David was dying, even though he was suffering, he wasn't alone. You were there. You sat with him. You held his hand. You made sure he wasn't frightened. When you left and he died, it was quick and peaceful. But those 3 weeks before, you gave him presence. You gave him the assurance that he wouldn't die alone. Maybe that's what your presence does. It says, I'm here, you're not alone, you don't have to die in fear or isolation. Maybe your patients hold on because they feel so safe with you. Is that a gift or a curse? I don't know. But I wanted you to know that I'm grateful you were there for David, even if it extended his suffering. He knew he was loved. He knew he wasn't alone. That matters. I read that letter sitting on my porch, looking out at the Vermont mountains, and I cried. Maybe Jennifer was right. Maybe my presence didn't prevent death. Maybe it prevented lonely death. Maybe my patients held on because they felt so safe, so supported, that they couldn't let go until that support was removed. But if that was true, what did it mean? That I could never be with dying people again? That my career, my calling, was over? In August 2024, I received a call from Susan Crawford. Margaret, I have a patient I want you to meet. His name is Robert Chen. He's 76, end-stage COPD, days to live. But he has no family, no friends. He's going to die completely alone. I know what happened with your other patients, but could you consider visiting him? Just once. I drove to Robert Chen's small apartment in Rutland. He was alone, as Susan had said. No family photos, no visitors, just a frail elderly man connected to oxygen, waiting to die. Mr. Chen, I'm Margaret Sullivan. Susan asked me to visit you. He looked at me with tired eyes. I don't need a nurse. I'm dying. I've accepted it. I'm not here as a nurse. I'm just here to sit with you if that's okay. He shrugged. Suit yourself. I sat with Robert for 2 hours that afternoon. We didn't talk much. I held his hand. I adjusted his oxygen. I made him tea. I was just present. When I left, he said, "Will you come back tomorrow? Do you want me to?" "Yes, please." I visited Robert every day for the next week. He should have died within days of my first visit. His COPD was end-stage, his oxygen levels terrible, his body shutting down. But he lived. A week became 2 weeks. 2 weeks became 3. On September 15th, 3 weeks after I'd started visiting, Robert said, "I'm ready to go now. I wasn't before. I was scared of dying alone. But you've been here. You've kept me company. I'm not scared anymore. Do you want me to leave? So you can let go?" He thought about this. "Not yet. But soon. Maybe tomorrow. I just wanted you to know, you've given me a gift. You've shown me I don't have to die alone and frightened. When I'm ready, I'll go. But thank you for staying until I was ready." I visited Robert on September 16th. We sat together quietly. He was peaceful, calm, ready. "I think today," he said. "I think I'm ready today. I'll stay as long as you want. Just a few more minutes. Then you can go. I'll be okay." I sat with Robert for an hour. He told me about his life, his childhood in San Francisco, his career as an engineer, his regrets and his joys. Then he squeezed my hand. "Thank you, Margaret. You can go now. I'll be fine." I left Robert's apartment at 3:30 p.m. He died at 4:47 p.m. Susan was with him at the end. He went peacefully, she told me. No fear, no struggle. Just a gentle letting go. I understand now what my presence does. It doesn't prevent death, it prevents lonely death. My patients hold on while I'm there because they feel safe, supported, not abandoned. They can't let go until they're ready to be alone, or until they trust that dying without me won't be frightening. It's not a curse. It's not even exactly a gift. It's a responsibility. I'm 61 years old. I've worked with death for 33 years. I've learned that my presence has power. The power to make dying people feel safe enough to hold on, and eventually, safe enough to let go. I've returned to hospice work, but with a new understanding. I visit patients who are dying alone. People like Robert, who have no family, no support system. I stay with them until they're ready, however long that takes. And when they're ready, when they've found peace, I leave. And they can finally die, knowing they weren't alone. Sometimes they hold on for days past when they should die. Sometimes weeks. But eventually they all let go. Because I don't force them to leave while they're still frightened. I stay until the fear is gone. Is it natural? Is it right? I don't know. I only know that people shouldn't die alone and terrified. And if my presence gives them comfort, gives them the safety to hold on until they're truly ready, then I'll keep doing this work. My 3 patients, Thomas, Eleanor, David, they suffered longer than they should have. I carry that guilt. But I also carry Jennifer's letter, reminding me that they didn't die alone, they didn't die frightened, and when they finally let go, it was peaceful. Maybe that's what hospice care should be. Not just managing symptoms and waiting for death, but being present, providing safety, staying until the patient is truly ready to leave. I'll keep doing this work until I can't anymore. Until my own death comes. And when it does, I hope someone will stay with me, the way I've stayed with so many others. Because in the end, that's what we all need. Someone to stay until we're ready to go. Someone to hold the space between life and death until we find the courage to cross it. That's my gift. That's my curse. That's my calling. And I've finally made peace with it. Video Basligi. I'm a hospice nurse. My dying patients can't die while I'm with them. True story. Asakloma. Margaret Sullivan has been a home hospice nurse in rural Vermont for 33 years. She sat beside over 1,200 deathbeds, helping terminally ill patients transition peacefully from life to death. She understands death intimately, its rhythms, its signs, its inevitable progression. But in autumn 2023, 3 of her patients stopped dying. Thomas Whitmore, 78, with end-stage pancreatic cancer, given less than a week to live. 6 weeks later, still alive. Eleanor Hayes, 84, with congestive heart failure, days to live. 4 weeks later, still breathing. David Forster, 62, disconnected from his ventilator with ALS, should have died in minutes. 3 weeks later, still alive. All 3 should have been dead. All 3 were suffering, ready to die, at peace with their fate. But they couldn't die. And the only thing they all had in common was Margaret. This is the true account of a hospice nurse who discovered she was unconsciously preventing deaths. Her presence, her care, her compassion, her unwavering support, created some kind of barrier between her patients and death. They could only die when she left. A first-person narrative about end-of-life care, the ethics of a good death, and the nurse who had to choose between her calling and her patient's peace. AI thumbnail. Gentle, atmospheric composition with rural Vermont aesthetic. Center. Mature female nurse, 61, Irish-American features, gray-streaked hair in practical bun, wearing comfortable scrubs or cardigan, sitting beside a home hospice bed, holding elderly patient's hand. Her expression shows quiet distress and realization.